Hi friends, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting life. So I get these ideas in my head and I'm like, today I just said, you know what? I'm going to film that idea. Although I have no idea what I'm going to be doing or how I'm doing it. I just have this idea in my head. Wait, I guess that's the way I bring all of my videos to you. Darn it, I thought this was going to be new. Back to critical thinking. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to do the same thing we always do. I'm going to take fabric, chop it up right here in front of you and tell you how to do what I'm doing, and we're going to make a quilt. So I'm going to use, this is what I have. This is what I gave myself here. A 20-piece fat cord bundle, 20 pieces. And then I have 3 yards of fabric. Notice it's not like a solid, which I normally would use a solid, but I need to mix in a different color. How about that? So for the fat quarter bundle, I'm going to put glasses on. I think it's the Chic Escape collection by Tilda Fabrics. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to find this. It's been on my shelf for a little while. It even came with buttons, which I don't need the buttons because what do you need buttons for on a quilt? I have no idea. But a Chic Escape by Tilda collection. It's pretty much all florals, and you'll see in a minute because we're going to open it and I'm going to lay it out and then we're going to go press it and all that stuff. But I guess first I have to just stop talking and start working, right? All right, let's take a look at what we got. So obviously this is my 3 yards of background or whatever fabric. Then we have the fat quarter bundle. I'm going to just go ahead and find a pair of scissors and go snippety snip. There's no turning back now. Okay, I'm going to hold up the tag so you can see. That's what it's called. Who knows if it's focused? It probably isn't. Like I said, the Chic Escape collection right there. Tilda Fabrics. Okay, anyways. Yep, 20 fat quarters. Whew, that's so small to read. Here's the 20 fat quarters. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Ooh, ooh la la, ooh la la. Pretty much seems like, see, I don't like having to cut stuff like this up. I'm already hating that I chose it. Look, there's a peacock there. You know, big prints in this, but we're going to make it work with big prints even. I'm just going to keep laying these. Oops. I probably should have, like, not laid them on here. That could just sit next to it, you know. Here, we'll just move that out of the way. And then that way you can see. See, these have, like, big pots on them. But you know what? I'm cutting it all up. That's just how it's going to be. I'm just going to chop it all up and stop worrying. Yeah, look at that. So there's my 20 fat quarters. Now the next step is to press it all. That's right. I said press it all. So we're going to open all this up. Open it, open it, open it. And we're going to take it to the iron and go press, press, press until it's all pressed up. So let's go do that. Ugh. Oh, it never stays nice. In the midst of all of this, since I'm leaving these not giant pieces, but pretty big pieces of all these 20 fat quarters, I decided to slightly starch all the fabric. So the first step, I'm just misting all of these like this. As you can see, I made a giant wet spot all the way around the pieces. Once they are all sprayed, I shall turn them over to the bottomest one, which is more dry than the rest, lay them next to me, take the iron, and nicely press everything. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stack them over on the cutting mat. So I'm literally just pressing them. They're slightly starched, just so it gives a little tiny bit of whatever. I don't normally starch, but you know, sometimes it makes sense to do so. And this is one of those times it's going to make sense to do so. All right, 1 done, 19 more to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep taking these over, pressing, and then the next one, pressing, and so on and so forth until they are all dry. And yes, I don't wait for them to dry. I dry them by using the iron. Plus it gets them really, really flat. So I'll take a minute and do all this. Well, you guys will technically just be at the next scene. All right, here we go. So I got everything pressed with a slight bit of starch. I did put 2 piles here because some along the selvage go one direction and some go the other. But everything's directional apparently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep this whole entire quilt directional. So I separated 2 piles here, although I'm not going to cut them in 2 piles because that's a lot to cut in this pile. But everything that has the writing selvage side is all going one way, and everything that has the no writing selvage side is going the other way. Either way, directional or not directional, everything's getting cut the exact same. So I'm going to just take my giant pile over here and move it. And then I'm going to grab myself a big ruler. Now these are fat quarters, and apparently these are some generous fat quarters. Most fat quarters are 18 by 21 or 22, which is half a yard of fabric by half of the width of fabric. Okay, so between 18 and 21 to 22, that between 18 by. Sometimes we get gypped on our fat quarters. No worries, because this is going to make a little bit more sense once I start cutting. We're going for our best at 18 inches. The blocks that we're going to make from the fat quarters are going to be trimmed down anyway. So it's no big deal if you get 17 3/4 of an inch out of your fat quarter, but we're going to get the most out of our fat quarters here. So I'm going to go ahead and move this pile aside and split it, I guess, in half is what I'm going to do, is just split it in half. So I'll move half of it right now. Place it aside, and what I'm going to do is I need to like line all these selvages up a little bit nicer. Like I said, it's a little bit generous of fabric here. So I'm holding 2 that I lined up, and I'm going to line up another one to it. Shake it out. I'm going to cut like 5 or 6 layers at a time. That's about good right there. Grab the next one. Yeah, this is like 6 layers or so. Okay, that one's good. And it looks like the last one for this pile. And I'm just lining the selvages up because that is my straightest part. And the first thing I'm going to do once they're all lined up is I'm going to cut the selvage off, since I know that's my straightest part, first. So I'm going to go ahead and line my ruler up. I have the selvage line literally on a line on my cutting mat. I'm going to go ahead and just line my ruler up on the cutting mat as well. There and right there. And that should cut everything pretty much the same. Come on. Stay straight. So I'm going to cut the selvage off first. Right there, right there. There we go. Nice fresh blade to work with. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is turn the whole entire thing, line it up on a line, because I'm right-handed, not left-handed. So I use a right-handed cutter. So I always cut from right-handed side stuff. So I'm going to line this up on the line on my cutting mat, and I'm going to come over to the 18-inch mark. We're literally going to make 18-inch squares. So I'm going to come over to the 18-inch mark, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. So this is just going to go in my scrap pile. So I'm just going to move my scrap pile aside momentarily. Now I'm going to go ahead and line this up right here to where all the edges of all this fabric is crossing the line. And I'm just like poking through, making sure that they are all crossing a line. That isn't, but now it is. not really shifting any of the fabrics. They're still laying flat. I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here. Now one side is straight. I'm going to go ahead now and turn the whole entire thing and cut it at the 18-inch mark. So again, I'm just lining it up on my cutting mat. I'm going to come over to 18 inches. And again, I will have scraps because these were generous fat quarters. You probably will not have scraps because not all fat quarters are generous. Unless you're cutting your own. Then we always cut generous fat quarters, right? All right. So now that I have my 18-inch square, here's the fun part. We're literally going to cut it again. I'm going to put my ruler on the side that has the straight number, or the, equal numbers. And I'm going to cut it 6, 6. Then I'm going to turn it, cut it 6 and 6. But literally making a 9 patch of 6-inch squares. So there's 6 there. I'm going to just slide it over. Come over to the 6 again. Right here, line it up. Make the cut. And then, I know this is kind of hard to do, but I'm just going to carefully turn the whole entire thing as if I didn't do anything. I don't think there is a rotating mat that's 16 inches or 18 inches. So, you have to do this, but you can cut on take your regular mat and turn it if you need to. I'm just doing it this way, which is fine. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up. 6. Slide that all out of the way and cut on the 6 again. Because 18 times 3, or divided by 3, is 6. So there's my sections. Now this was a directional fabric, like I said, so what I'm going to do is knock this all together and keep the direction directional. Now I need a place to lay it. Oy, more room. I'm going to run over there for a second. I brought over another pile. I'm going to do that same procedure, and then I'm going to put the piles over there because I don't have room for them over here. You'd think with such a big desk I would have room. I would right here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a disaster. Also because I've been making project bags and other stuff, and I try to keep myself busy here. So I'm just stacking them along the selvage, and I'm going to run that same procedure again. I'm actually going to go ahead. Actually, I think I could cut this many layers. There's a lot in this pile. All those selvages are nicely lined up. Yeah, that's good. Right there. All right. Putting all the selvages on a line. Oops, that one shifted just slightly. Unshift you. Thank you. Right there. Perfect. Putting it all on a line, and then I'm going to cut the selvage off first. I tend to do that on just even regular projects. So I'm going to line it up, chop it all off at the same exact time, turn the whole entire thing, put it on a line, and come over 18 inches. Giant 18-inch squares. You don't even need directions for this. All right, scrap pile. Turn. Make sure it's all crossing a line. So I'm going to line it up. Make sure that every single one of these is crossing the line. I just check up here and down there. Yep, it's crossing. Those are crossing. Yep, 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 and yep. So I'm just going to make a cut. There and there. It's nice and even. Okay, that will be garbage. Turn the whole entire thing, line it up on a line, and come over 18 inches and make a cut. Like I said, I had generous fat quarters here. They literally almost 20 inches, which is kind of weird because I've never had fat quarters that big from a company before. All right, so I'm going to do that same procedure. I'm going to cut 6 inches and 6 inches, turn it, cut 6 inches, and cut 6 inches. Now if I could just line up the 6-inch mark on the ruler. You can't slide these Quilter Select rulers on the fabric because it takes the fabric with. So I literally have to pick the ruler up and place it down carefully. That. I'm going to very carefully turn the whole thing to the side, line it back up again as best as I possibly can. Like I said, if it's not right, we're trimming blocks anyway, so when we make them, cutting on the 6-inch line and then cutting on the 6-inch line. There. Leaving us with 6-inch squares. Now, let me find the direction of these. Which way were they facing? The top ones really didn't matter. It was the bottom ones. Oh, they're in the correct direction right now as they sit. So I'm going to take these over, put them on the pile, and then bring more fat quarters over. All right, my last stack. I'm going to do that same procedure all over again. And yeah, I'm cutting more layers than I probably should, but I like to get things done quicker, so I cut more layers. You know? Plus, we're just cutting big, giant 18-inch squares. What does it really matter? You can cut all 20 pieces one at a time, so you can guarantee you get an 18-inch square. Or you can cut them 2 at a time to guarantee you get an 18-inch square. Me, if these weren't oversized, I probably wouldn't have exact 18-inch squares. But since these are a little oversized, I got lucky. Go ahead, line the selvage up, make the cut. I'm going to make sure that I get the white part of the selvage all the way down. We're not done cutting either. We're going to cut some more, but for now, I'm stacking it all up and out of the way. All right, how directional was this? Oh, look, they're in the correct direction now, right? Yep. All right, so I'm going to stack these into the pile. You get the picture. Here's all my stacks now. Now I'm just going to move them out of my way, and we're going to do one stack at a time, and then we'll place it back where it goes. All right, I'm going to start with my top left corner. So I'm going to grab it, and it should be still stacked pretty nicely. Just going to take the top, stack them up just a little bit better. Take a little bit from here, stack them just a little bit better, and the bottom like this. And what I'm going to do, switch to a smaller ruler, and I'm going to cut once on the diagonal from the bottom left to the top right. All 3 of these. Just going to cut them. 1, 2. I made 3 stacks. You can stack them as much as you want. We're just cutting the same cut. And like I said, I'm keeping my stuff directional. All right, so now I have all of my triangles, right? So I'm literally going to put them back on top of each other. Just like this. And then place them back where they go. Now I'm going to go to the top right corner, which is this one. I'm going to separate into a couple piles. Just going to make sure they're nice and stacked. Don't get moved out too much. That one kind of is funky. How'd that happen? I don't know, but it happens. And now I'm going to cut these opposite way. So we just cut from the bottom left to the top right. Now we're going to cut from the bottom right to the top left. on all 3 of these stacks. And I'll come close where you can see when I'm done with all these cuts, but right now I'm taking up more of the cutting area than the camera can get into the picture. So now I got all these cut, again, from the bottom right to the top left. So now I'm just going to stack them back up the way they were for now. Place the whole thing back where it went. Now we're going to do the bottom left. So notice we didn't do any middles yet. So the bottom left piece, we're going to grab this, make some stacks again, just stacking them up, and making sure everything's nice and square still, and it is. Sometimes when you starch fabric, it stacks like paper. It doesn't feel like paper, because I didn't starch it that much, but it'll stack like paper if it's nice. So now I'm going to make a cut on the diagonal again, but this time I'm going to go the same as my previous one. I'm going to go from the bottom right to the top left. Bottom right to the top left. So you're making triangles, right? Just like that. So now I'm going to stack them back the way they were, because they're still in order this whole entire time. Now I'm going to do the bottom right. Bottom right. 3 stacks again. For me, like I said, for you, you don't have to do 3 stacks. I'm just doing it because the more I cut at once, the easier it is for me. All right. Now this one, we're going to cut like we did on the top left corner. We're going to do this one the same thing. So we're going to cut from the bottom left to the top right. Bottom left to the top right on the diagonal. Just the one time. Okay. So I have those all cut. So I'm just going to stack them back up. Place them back in the pile. Now that all those are cut, we're going to go for the middles now. The middle piece of our 9 patch, don't touch that yet. Leave that one alone. We're going to go for the left side middle. I'm going to make 3 stacks, same as I've been doing this whole entire time. 3 stacks. Look at that, nice and flat stacks. Look at that, so pretty. All right, and now these we're going to cut in half and in half again. So these are 6-inch squares right now, right? So you just need to cut 3-inch. And then 3-inch. So you'll get a 4 patch worth. So just do that on all of these. 3-inch. Oops. Try not to move or distort anything. And then 3-inch this way. Okay. Then I'm going to go to this furthest one. 3 inches. Turn the ruler and 3 inches. Just like that. So you should have 4 patches. Okay. So now I'm going to stack them right back up. And place them back where it goes. Those are the bottom 2. Those are the top 2. Again, it's directional, so I'm trying to keep everything together. Now I'm going to repeat that same 4 patch cut for my top row middle, my right side middle, and my bottom row middle. So I'm literally just going to separate 3 piles, cut 3-inch, turn ruler, cut 3-inch, middle pile, 3-inch, there, stay, don't move, 3-inch, and last one. 3, turn, and 3. Okay, gonna stack them back up. You know, I realize this. I say K a lot, like okay, okay, okay. I realize I say that way too much. I gotta stop doing that. All right, back where it goes. Take the next stack. Remember, this is now on my right side middle piece. Oops, this one got shifted a little bit. That's good there, there, and there. I'm going to do that same thing. Create a 4 patch. 3-inch. Turn a ruler. Trying not to shift the fabric, but it always shifts on me. 90% of the time. If I go faster, maybe it would not do that, but it does. And that's okay. I'll just realign things back up. And yes, I'm showing you guys the cutting of this whole entire thing because I cannot put this on the computer. It won't let me. I can't figure out how to make a block. I know how to put like the blocks together to make a whole quilt for you guys to get a design, but I can't figure out how to just make one block. The designing thing on it is just all messed up and mumbo jumbo in my head, you know? All right, so I'm gonna place this back where it goes. One last stack is the bottom middle. All right. Trying to keep everything nice and square. And like I said, if you didn't get 18 inches from your fat quarter, like an 18-inch square, and you did 17 3/4, do 17 3/4 divided by 3 on your calculator, and then that will be your number. I forgot to say that out loud when we were cutting. But if you cut them just right, you know, one at a time especially, you can get your full 18 inches from a fat quarter. Unless you've pre-washed your fabrics. Then you're cutting 17-inch squares. In that case, you might as well just do a totally different number. But I'm working with 18-inch here. We're going to get like a 60-something by 70-something inch quilt. I don't even remember the numbers. Like I said, I'm kind of just making things up as I go at the same time as I kind of had this idea already in my head. I'm just making up the parts and pieces as I go. All right, so I'm going to stack these up now. Stackety stack, stackety stack. Stack it up, stack it up. Move that out of the way. We have one last piece. That is our middle section. Now the middle section, we're going to make 3 piles, same as we've been doing, or however many piles you're making. It's all going to get cut the same. This one, we're going to cut on the diagonal both directions. So we're going to cut both directions on the diagonal. One way, don't move or anything. Just one way, then the other. Leave everything where it is. Hopefully it doesn't shift like sometimes my pieces do. And the other way. Corner to corner. Just like that. Now, stack it back up. Stack it back up and place it back in the middle stack. Like this. That one. That was like that. Now I'm going to move everything towards me, and then we'll bring the camera above. So hopefully everything stays in the direction of which I have cut it all, because I'm trying to keep it all in directional. As long as I keep the whole thing directional, I should be good. All right, now we're going to do this one. And this right there. All right, so let's bring the camera above so I can show you the next step. And then we can get to sewing because, like I said, this is a very simple project. Ooh, my rotary cutter is filthy. Filthy. We had an 18-inch square, right? Okay, so you had an 18-inch square. Then you cut it into 6-inch segments. So 6-inch segments. Okay, so then you made those. Then your 6-inch segments get cut on the diagonal this way, that way, and that way. Notice the corners all go the same direction, so you're cutting out like this. Then your middle pieces get cut into 4-patch like this. And then your center is cut on the diagonal 2 times. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to play the mix and match game because there's 20 different fabrics here. So we're going to go like this. Take this top one, put it on the bottom. We can leave that one the same and take this top one and put it on the bottom. But I need more variety with mine, but we're going to do the same with all of these. Top one to the bottom. Top one to the bottom. So every other one will be different. Okay? So I gotta stop saying that K thing. Whew. All right, I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm just going to put the top one on the bottom and the top one on the bottom. So I have that same fabric. Thing is, for me, because of I separated these and I want 2 whatevers to touch. Yeah, that's not going to work. I'm going to put 2 on the bottom. Maybe that'll equal it out for me. I'm going to put a second one on the bottom because I kind of put these in order of their flower type. So I'm going to put 2 to the bottom, this, on all of these. Hopefully that equals it out. So this is not the same fabric to the same fabric. All right, 2 to the bottom and 2 to the bottom. There we go. Now I'm going to take and do my 4 patches. So I'm just going to randomly just pull it out like this, put that to the bottom. Randomly grab it like this, put that to the bottom. Randomly just pick through them, put it to the bottom. Randomly pick through them, put it to the bottom, in hopes that nothing matches. We're going to do the same thing with all 4 piles. So I'm just going to just randomly, there's 20 different combination, different fabrics. So touch that one to it like this. Do the same with this pile. I don't want the green. That's why we're moving it. We don't want the green one on top. We're hoping that with doing this, that none of these will touch the same color along the way. I like when I mix things up like this. I always thought, stuff like this is super fun to do when you mix it completely up. All right. All of those are mismatched. I do have some sames right here, but that's okay. As long as this one is not the same as this one, which is kind of close. So I could literally just take and flop through it again, this, if I wanted, and move it around more. If I want, I could just change them around. It's okay. Have fun with it. Make it your own. And then this is just going to stay the same where they match. Hopefully the same colors match the outside as we go. So now it's time to sew. It's really going to be this simple. I'm going to take this whole stack and sew these all together. Then I'm going to take this whole stack and sew 9 patches. Then this whole stack, but what I'll do is probably do all the half square triangles first. Then I'll do probably this, then the 4 patches. So this is going to be a while of sewing. I'll take you to the machine and we'll show you this, but as far as it goes, then I'll, come back and show you how this goes together and how this goes together. But it's pretty simple. So we're going to go and sew half square triangles first. So I'm literally just going to lay them here, put them right sides together. Everything should be the same size. And I'm just going to sew them all the way down until the pile is done. Then grab the next pile and sew it. The cutting part was probably the fussiest part. All right, so I'm just going to leave you to sew yours, and I'll come back when I sew the next step. All right, now for some of the 4 patches. So I'm literally just going to put 2 on this side and 2 on this side. I'm going to go like this, right sides together. Then take the bottom 2. So every 2, this is how I'm going to keep everything together. I'm going to take the top 2. I'm trying to keep everything directional too for me. Then bottom 2. And I just keep telling myself, top 2, bottom 2, top 2, bottom 2. And sew them all through. So this would be top. Then bottom. Top. Bottom. And if I didn't want these 2 big florals next to each other, just swap it. It's no big deal. All right, so I'm going to let you go while I finish this up, and then I'll show you the last and final style block that we're making. I totally spaced that I have to show you the putting together of these, because top 2, bottom 2 doesn't make any sense until you figure out why. All right, so since I sewed the top 2 and the bottom 2 from the pile together, every 2 is 1 block. Every 2 is 1 block. 1, 2, find the end because it broke off, which would be somewhere right here. Where did it break off from? Right here. So once they are all separated, then you're going to take, and for now, I'm just going to finger press 1 to the right, finger press 1 to the left. Put them right sides together and sew. Nesting my seam together. Okay, So it's nested nicely together. Grab the next, finger press right, finger press left. And I'm just pressing them all exactly the same as I go along. Lines it up, nest that seam, sew it on down. Grab the next, right, finger press to the left, sew it together. And just repeat that process. So I'm just going to do the same with every single 4-patch pile. And then when I press them, I will try to put them back in the direction that they go. Because remember, my fabric was directional, so this would be the top right for my directionalness. So I'm going to just make sure I pull them off the machine and press them all that same exact way. And like I said, if you had anything that matched, you would know at this part. So, you know, as I'm finger pressing, like right here, you can see all 4 of these were different. So I'm going to keep them together. But if they weren't, you can just mix and match them. It'll be no big deal. Did I run out of bobbin? I did. So I'm going to go on to the next step after this. The last style block is this one right here. Again, this is just like the 4-patch. I'm going to turn it this way. Put half on this side, half on that side. Go like this. Right sides together. Matching up this corner. Slide these 2 through. So top 2. And grab it like this. And put the bottom 2 in. Pretty cinch. Just top 2, bottom 2, over and over again. Until everything is sewn up. And then obviously I'm going to break them apart in sets of 2 and hook those sets of 2 together. These ones are a little bit easier to know which way you are because the point, you know, comes out. With squares, I always forget, what am I on? Top 2 or bottom 2? But this one, I know that's the flat edge, and this side's the on the diagonal. So I would remember that this top 2, bottom 2. So I'm really going to just repeat this process until all these are sewn up like this. And I just, so anyway, I just realized, even though I'm trying to keep them the same, that these are close in color, but I'm going to go ahead and sew them together anyway. Because that's what I'm doing, and I already did it on the half square triangle, which these in color match the half square triangles. Oh, come on, right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish these, and then I'll show you how to combine them. So I'm finishing up this last one, and I'm going to keep them together, same as before, in sets of 2. So here's 2, snip, set that aside. Here's 2, snip, set aside. Every 2 from point to point. This keeps everything together in my sets of 2, and I didn't get anything mismatched, out of order, or any of that. And drop things along the way. So I'm going to do the same as the 4-patch. I'm going to press 1 to the right and 1 to the left. Notice I'm kind of mainly just pressing right here. That way, in the center, that way when I just nest them together, those are nested. The rest of the block I'm not worried about till I get to the iron. That way I can at least chain piece them while I'm right here. So again, I'm just going to kind of get right there. That one's going to the right. This one's going to the left. And I just put them right sides together. Nest where I've finger pressed. And just go until I have no more blocks left. And then I'm going to finish all the piles of blocks, and then I'll show you how we're going to put everything together. If I can sew this. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next step. Once all the sewing parts are done, we're going to go ahead and press them. So the half square triangles are easy. This was the top of my stack. I'm going to go ahead and place it to the bottom. And I'm literally just going to roll it back, just like that. Stack it out of the way, take the next one, roll it back. I'm not pulling, tugging, or stretching my half square triangle on the diagonal. I'm just rolling it back with the iron, giving it a press, stacking it up, just like that. Basically just focusing on the center. And since I added starch to my fabric, it's not really stretching as bad as it would if I hadn't added starch. So I'm just literally rolling it back. I'm not pulling, tugging, or anything. I'm letting the iron do the work. And they're laying pretty darn flat, just doing that. Finished all these up. They're nice and flat. I'm going to go ahead and put them back where I had them on the thing. Mine are directional, so my fabrics were directional. This is the direction that they go in, so I'm going to place it just like this in its pile. Here's my 4 patches. This was the top unit. I'm going to go ahead and flip it upside down, and I'm going to go ahead. My seam presses to the bottom on this one and to the other side on that one, so it was left and then right. So I'm going to push it to the left, fold the whole thing back, and push that top part to the right, and it lays nice and flat. So again, I'm just pushing this one to the left with the iron. The whole thing is going to go up, and then the top one goes to the right. And it stays pretty square doing that. So I'm pretty much just making sure everything lays nice and flat. All right, once these 4 patches are fully pressed, I will do all the piles exactly the same. They're in the direction I need them to be, so I'm going to take this and place them where they go. Lastly is this pile. This was my top block. Turn it upside down. That's my bottom block. Just going to pick it up. Remember, I didn't press the whole thing, so I'm going to press that bottom to the one side, roll the whole thing back in the center, and then take that top piece and press it to the opposite side. Nice and flat. So again, you can see I didn't press the ends with my finger all the way. So I pressed the bottom first, roll the whole thing back, because that's where I finger pressed, and then the top one, just roll it to the side that it needs to go. And again, they stay nice and flat. Oops, roll it back, then push it over. And I shouldn't get no folds, puckers, or tucks or anything doing this. And you can go over the whole block or just the areas that need ironing or pressed or however you want to say it. I just say ironing because it's an iron and I'm ironing. Whether I just hold it down or not, it's the same thing to me. Now that they are pressed, I'm going to put them where they go. Once you have all of your parts and pieces sewn together, see, sewn, sewn, sewn together. It doesn't really take that long. It's only 20 blocks total that we're making, so, because, you know, we had 20 fat quarters, and each fat quarter makes a block, even though we've mixed and matched everything. So once it's all done, this is the dreaded part. Most people don't like this part, but we're going to go ahead and do it because we need to. So like I said, everything was going to get trimmed. There was no worries if your cuts weren't accurate, because it's going to get trimmed. You should be able to, even if you didn't have a complete 18-inch block, you should, absolutely should, be able to get 5-inch squares from all of this. So I have brought over a 5-inch square ruler that I just so happen to have, but if you don't have a 5-inch ruler, you can go ahead and use your regular ruler, line it up, so on and so forth, or another square, and then just put some washi tape as your markings at your 5-inch. So I'm going to go ahead and scooch all this over, and I'm going to show you the different blocks and how they get trimmed, starting with a half square triangle, because it's literally right here. We're going to line my half square triangle. If you have like some kind of trim it, you know, where you butt it up and trim. I don't have one of those, like a trim lock or what is those other ones called? I don't know. You get where I'm going. A trimming tool. I'm going to go ahead now and just line up my points and my line on the center, and I'm going to trim this down. Oops. Yeah. I'm going to trim it down to 5 inches, but I think I'm going to carefully trim it down to 5 inches. Because I, just made a disaster right there on camera. Anyway, so that's going to go like this. Right there. Then your 4 patches are going to get trimmed exactly the same. I'm going to take on my 5-inch ruler, it's a Creative Grids 5-inch ruler. It has a X on it right here, or a cross, or whatever you want to call it. That center right there is the center of my 5 inches. It's 2.5 inches, both directions. I'm literally just going to lay it on here. I'm going to go ahead and trim the one side, and then due to the fact that I am very not cautious about the things I do and throwing rotary cutters and making messes here, I'm just going to turn the whole thing to my straight cuts, line it back up again, and then make my cut. And this brand new blade is not very brand new anymore. So you trim all these down to 5 inches. Place it back where it goes. Then the center one is the only other different one. It's going to be that same thing. Points. All 4 points are going to line up on all 4 points. I'm going to have a diagonal line running through here and have that touching this one because there's not a second diagonal. And I'm going to go ahead and trim it. This one's probably going to be the closest to 5 inches of all of your cuts. All right, see, I can't do that because I don't have anti-slip on this little 5-inch ruler. I probably should put some on here though, huh? Or something. All right, there's that. And then that just goes right back where it was. And it's that simple. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this whole entire stack, trim all of these. And I'm probably going to make it easier on myself by bringing out this right here. And then trim everything. So I literally am just going to turn the pile upside down, grab one, place my ruler on here. We're going to make sure that I have my diagonal line right here. Place it on, make 2 cuts, turn the whole entire thing, and make 2 cuts. Just like that. And you could trim your half square triangles prior to, so if it's still folded in half, you can use a, what is the word for it? I can't think of the words today. Slotted trimmer, clearly perfect slotted trimmer. You could have trimmed them to start with your slotted trimmer. Or you can just trim them all once you are done pressing everything. And see, I can't do that without shifting the fabric. So no matter what I do, I have to adjust my ruler or grab my little stickum things that I have. I do have the little stickies for the back side of rulers to keep them from slipping. I swear this is horribler than the other mat. Anyways, I'm going to continue on trimming everything up and trying to keep it all right side up. I think it was that way, yeah. Because everything was right side up. Oh, look at that. A peacock matched and they don't even go together. So did a flower. How interesting on that one. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to go closer to this way so that I can keep the peacock as much as possible on this one. And then I'm going to go find myself some sticky dot things for the back so that I can cut and trim without having to worry about my ruler slipping. This is probably the slippiest ruler I have. All right, so there that is. I'm going to go ahead now and just do that to everything. There's, 9 stacks of 20. All right, now it is time to take our I would call it like an accent, but it's background accents because it's going to be used as the same thing all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead now and we are going to cut this up. I have 3 yards to work with, so I'm making this project work with the 3 yards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start about right here, and I'm going to cut a nice straight line to start with. It's always best to start with a nice straight line. Find myself a rotary cutter, and then make a cut. Now, the cut we're going to make is 5 inches. So we're going to come over 5 inches. It's really hard to see this through this ruler. It's the only bad thing about the Quilter Select ruler is it's a different color and it's not clear, so it's harder to see through dark fabrics to line up the black lines. All right, so we're going to make 3 cuts that are 5 inches. So there's 1, 2, and number 3. Okay, then once we have those cut, we're just going to move it aside so that we can go ahead and subcut these pieces. I'm going to go ahead and just stack all of mine up. I'm going to cut the selvage off all at once. And now I'm going to cut this into 120 5-inch by 1-inch rectangles. So I'm cutting 6 at a time until this is all cut up. So 5 inches by 1 inch. So we're subcutting 1 inch. All of my pieces are cut. So now we're going to sew these on and then we'll cut the next one. So let me go ahead now and bring the blocks back over here so that we could sew those on. So now we're going to take the 20 cuts. So I cut 3 5-inch strips, stacked them all on top of each other. So I have 6 pieces right here. I cut 20 1-inch by 5-inch segments. So that way, 6 of these goes for 1 block like this. We are going to be inserting these in between each of our 20 blocks because it's 20 here, 20 here, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. All right, so I'm going in between every single one like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain piece all of these with this on it, and then I'll, press and everything towards my accent. I guess that's again what that is. Then I'll sew all these, press towards the accent, sew all these, press towards the accent, all those, press towards the accent, sew all these, so on and so forth until I do this 20 times. So I'm literally just gonna, go like this until it's all ready, and then I can just sew every single one of these up. And that should do all of that and get that done. So now I'm just going to go to the machine and chain piece all of these on with a 1/4-inch seam all to this side, and chain piece all these, all these, all those, all those, all those, and then we're going to hook them in rows of 3, and then we'll take our background accent, whatever you want to call this, and we'll cut the next piece, which will go in between here, which should be 15 inches, but we'll cut that in a minute because I don't have room on the table to do it all at once, and I didn't want to throw them to the side and then lose all the pieces. So we're going to do that same thing where we'll cut 15 inches, turn it, subcut it into 1-inch strips. So I'm going to go ahead now and sew all these on. I'm going to spare you that because you pretty much know how to sew a straight one onto here with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. So I'm going to spare you all that and chain piece all these on, and then I'll chain iron them and then keep going until everything is done. So now that all these are sewn on, I'm going ahead and just going to chain piece all these through and then add this. All these through and then add this. All these through and then add this. And then we're going to cut our 15-inch strip by 1-inch strips off of our yardage. But for now, I wanted to get this whole step done instead of you know, taking the time to have all that ready. It's easier to just do this step first. Sew these on, 1/4 inch seam allowance, same as before, and then we'll add our next piece. So I'm going to go ahead and sew all these through. Again, I'm just going to skip that step because you pretty much know how to sew your 1/4 inch seam by now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that step. So those are all sewn. I set them aside so that I can go ahead and have room to cut off of my original 3 yards. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. This side should still be straight from my previous 5-inch cuts. So I'm just going to line it up on a line. It looks pretty straight to me. And I'm going to go ahead now. It's lined up on the 0. So I literally just need to come over to the 15 right here and then make the cut. So I just need the 1 15-inch cut, unless you're making more blocks. Obviously, you would need more. I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the side, switch the rulers out. Sorry, I have hiccups all of a sudden. Line this up on a line, cut the selvage off, and I'm going to do the same as I did with my 5-inchers. I'm going to cut 1-inch strips. Now, you only need, if you have it folded in half still, you need to cut 20. Okay, so I'm just going to do this 20 times. The previous one was 3 strips, and you cut 20. So this one's the same thing, but only 2, because we only need 2 per block for, oops. And I was just cutting on top of the ruler. Could you imagine if my finger would have been there? Anyway, so I'm just going to cut 20 1-inch strips by 15-inch, which is what the cut was. So I'm just cutting them this way. This is just keeping, because they're big blocks, I'm keeping it from stretching. See, this is very, I'm trying to stretch it. It doesn't stretch very good in this direction. It's better than going with the side. And I think I get more out of it this way and less waste. I mean, for years I've done it the other way, but this way I started doing with lots of quilts, and it's helping with waste, because let me tell you, the scraps that I accumulate just from myself, not even the ones that people send me, I have so many. So I definitely just trying to, you know, anchor down on that waste. I don't even know what I'm at now because I'm talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We should get 20 because the fabric should be 42. So I should get 20. I don't even remember what I'm on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I need 10 more. Okay, and so this is my 20th cut. Like I said, if you didn't pre-wash your fabric, you should be able to get 20. And this is my remainder right here. I would have got 2 more if I needed, but we just need 20 because we need 2 per block, and we're making 20 blocks. So that's 2. So there's 40 pieces here total, because there's 40 inches pretty much within my selvage to selvage. So there's that. Now let me show you how these are going to go. This is how this is going to go. There's my bottoms, my middle. Remember, I kept mine directional, but you don't have to if you don't want to, because my fabric was directional. All right, so they're going to go just like this. So we're going to sew this onto here and this onto here, sew the 2 together, and sew the 2 together. The only thing we're going to watch for when we're putting them together once the black strip is hooked is we're going to watch to try to keep these straight, but it's not going to be perfect, and I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about these being the size they need to be and working it in there. So I'm going to go ahead now and sew all these to all of this, all these to all of this, connect the 2 and then line them up, and then connect this one on, lining it up. And I'll show you when I go to line it up what that looks like. So to line these up, because this is how it's going to go, I'm just going to turn it this way for now. We're going to take number 1, number 2. We're going to put these right sides together, and they should be the same length. So I'm just going to fold this back and see, okay, that looks lined up right there. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw that clip on there. Then I'm just going to roll this one back. This needs to be slid over just a little. And these 2 now touch. So I'm going to go ahead and place the clip on it right there. So I'm going to do the top two, and then I'm going to do that same with that bottom. Once that is sewn, I'm just going to grab this piece, right sides together. I'm going to turn it so that way it's facing me. Roll this back and go, oh, that's where that's supposed to sit nicely. And then roll this back, and this one needs to go that way a little. And those are equal now. And then I will just put a clip on that. Everything is being pressed towards the black piece on my color, so towards your background or accent or whatever you want to call it. Everything's being pressed towards that. So everything, this whole entire thing, should be laying flat within itself. And when you go to press it this way, it's laying flat. There are no seams to nest. It's really just about lining things up. And see, I pre-clipped this, and you can see this makes a nice straight line, and this makes a nice straight line. And if it's not perfect, it really doesn't matter as long as you get it done, because this and this are the same exact length. They're 15 inches. So that should, no matter what, match up. And this should, no matter what, match that, because they are 15-inch segments. So I'm going to go ahead now and start piecing all these on here like this. And like this, and with a 1/4 inch seam, and then get all 20 of my blocks done. And then we will put them on the wall because we need them out of the way, because we're going to cut some more of this background accent, whatever you want to call it, fabric. We're going to cut some more of that 3 yards that we started with and have some more fun with this. So let's get to sewing. I'm just going to skip that part. You saw how I line them up. I'm just going to use clips. It's only 20 blocks in my case. You could make more, you can make less for whatever project you're making, like I said. But this, what I'm doing is 20 fat quarters. If you want to say do, you know, a 4 across by 4 down, which is 16 blocks, you just needed 16 fat quarters. If you want to do 32, which is I think 7 by whatever, you can make that many blocks. That's all on you, and you need that many quarters per. And just remember, you need your background fabric or accent fabric. You just need more and more as you go, or less and less as you go. But 3 yards is what we got for this one. So we're going to make the best of the 3 yards and use it all up for this project. So I'm going to sew these, and I will be right back in 2 seconds, because, well, actually, it won't even be 2 seconds. It'll be like next screen. So here we are. This is where the blocks are now done. I put them on the wall. It's 4 across, 5 down. Now we need to cut. So like I said, I'm just cutting as I go, because then you get all discombobulated and all your stuff will just end up here, there, and everywhere, and then you lose pieces. So tip, I guess, for this is cut as you go. Again, I gave you a dedicated 3 yards, and you have plenty of fabric for that. So now we're going to cut for the in-betweens. There's going to be no cornerstones. So lining it up is got to be, okay, because it doesn't always line up perfectly when you don't have cornerstones. So you have to work at it, just like all these. Okay, they are not perfect by no means, because I'm not perfect and neither are you. So the next step is to cut a 15-inch strip. So we're going to cut 15-inch strip. I'm just going to do this right here, just like this. I'm going to line my fabric up. It should still be straight from my previous cuts. And I'm going to go ahead and cut a 15-inch strip. Why is that? Because the blocks are 15 inches. So we want 15-inch strip. Okay, and I'm going to just move this out of the way, and we'll cut the next after I cut this one, because, again, we're cutting as we go. And that 15-inch strip, I'm going to cut the... I'm going to switch to a different ruler, because, you know, my brain goes less crazy with a ruler that's smaller, I guess. All right, so we're going to cut that 15-inch strip that we just cut off, and now we're going to subcut it into 15 2-inch strips. 15 2-inch strips. I gotta try not to cut my cord. I didn't want to tuck it behind my shirt today, because, you know, I'm just not in the mood. If you guys were, you know, ever had to wear a microphone for something and it has a cord and it just plays, it hangs on the underside of the shirt, and just, I'm telling you right now, it's annoying. All right. So I'm getting 2 per cut. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and this will be 14. And I don't want to overcut, so I'm just going to open this up and cut my 15th piece off. Okay, so there that is. And this is the leftover from that whole step. So I'm going to place that aside, and then these are going to go, we're going to just do this right here with you, in between. I made this area too tall for me. But hey, you guys don't mind me tippy-toeing to put stuff together. So they're literally just going to go in between every single block like this, because it's sashing. You know, and this is how we put our sashing in between everything, like this. And if you're curious, my design wall is just a piece of batting, cotton batting. It's been up here for a while and everything sticks to it just wonderfully. All right, last 2. Get these down here. I don't even really like swipe them to the wall every time. As long as one part of the fabric is sticking, it stays. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. While that is up there, we're going to take more of our fabric, move this out of the way, and we're going to cut 13 2-inch strips. Yes, I keep myself a little paper guide that I write things on. So I'm going to re-straighten this one more time. And that way it's nice and straight to cut a bunch of 2-inch strips. So we're going to cut 13 2-inch strips. All right, so I'll just fast forward through this part. We're cutting 13 2-inch strips. So from your 3 yards, you should have only used 86 inches. So I have a yard left, and I can use that for something else or for binding of this project. So just a little bit left to use towards whatever I want. But I gave you 3 yards on purpose because I know some people have, you know, struggles with cutting, or they want to add or make something bigger or whatever. So I always overestimate. So once we have all of our 13 strips cut, I'm going to go ahead and chop the selvage off, but these will be going like this. So we'll be putting them together and then hooking them up. So once everything is sewn, 1.5 each. So I'm going to split some in half. 1.5 each for 4 sections right here, and then we're going to go all the way around with it. So I'm going to go ahead now and take the selvage off of all of these, start sewing them together in sets of 2, and then trim down, you know, to 1.5's worth, and we'll start stitching the rows together and then putting the rows together with the piece, this strip. So I'm going to go ahead now and get this cut, and I will be back in 2 seconds, which again would not be 2 seconds for you because that's the magic of editing. So now I'm going to go ahead, and because I'm going to be putting it all the way around as well, I'm going to go ahead and sew these end to end. So I literally stack the whole thing up, drop a piece, and then sew them right sides together. The rest of the way they should be right sides together until you get to the first piece. I'm just going to 2 and then 2 and then 2 and just keep sewing them together end to end. Like I said, once the rows are sewn together, the equivalent is 1.5 of these. So it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to cut to size when the time comes. So I'm going to put you in fast forward while I continue with sewing these, and then we'll get started on sewing the rows together with the sashing and move on. Sorcery is done. Now I have one gigantic long, just forever strip. So I'm going to go ahead and press all the seams on that. Before I work on that though, we are just going to get started right away with stitching the sashing in between each block. So just gonna grab a sashing, grab a block, and sew it on. It should be exactly the same size. If your 1/4 inch was good throughout the whole thing, then your blocks should be exactly the size they are in my head pattern, because it's in my head. So I'm just going to leave that there. Grab the next. Chain piece this one through. And then I'll pull them off in the order of which I sewed them, which I've been doing this whole entire project, keeping things in order. And chain sewing, chain cutting, chain ironing. That's what I do. I'm my own sweatshop. All right, so last one for this row, and then I'm going to press them and hook them together. Woohoo! So this one was the furthest one away. I'm going to go ahead and just keep that on the bottom. Then my middle one. Then the top one. And I'm going to go ahead and press now towards the sashing. The whole entire time I've been flipping it upside down so that bottom stays on bottom. Then I'll press this one. Then I'll press the next one and then press again. So I'm going to do that. So they're pressed. They're back in the order of which I had them on the wall, which is right side up. I'm going to go ahead and hook number 1. So number 2. Again, it was the same exact size, so it should line right up. All right, I'm going to open this up and hook number 3, right sides together. And then grab number 4 off the wall. Excuse me. It's been a sneezy day in here today. So all 4 of row 1 are together. Now I'm just going to press towards the sashing. The whole entire time I'm pressing towards the sashing because that's where all the bulk is going to go, and it keeps it flat. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. So here is my row. It should be 62.5 inches. So now I'm going to take this, because I'm building this as I go, and I'm going to cut off 62.5 inches. And my accuracy of this is not very good. So I think I'm going to lay it on the ironing board, measure out 62.5 inches, and then sew it on. My 62.5 inch piece. I'm going to go ahead now and put it on the bottom. And it should be exact, hopefully. We never get those long measurements correct, right? Those are the ones that always get messed up. So I'm just going to start sewing this on. I'm going to backstitch. And then try not to step on it because it's a long piece. It should be the right size. So I shouldn't have to have pinned this on if I don't stretch, pull, or tug the fabric. So I'm holding it in my hand so that it's not yanking because I'm standing to sew. I'll stop, pause, go. Line up my end, making sure that it's good. And it stays nice the whole way. And backstitch at the end. And there, that's on there. So now I just need to press that back. And then I'm going to repeat that step. This one, that one, that one, hook them on, then hook the 4 together. Do this one, add the bottom on each of them, and then we'll put the pieces together one after the other because they need to be pinned or clipped into place so that we can line the sashing right here up with the sashing right here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just put you to fast forward through the rest of this. So I figured I'd slow it down just so you can see to make sure that your piece lines up. I'm going to clip one end. I'm going to clip the other end. And then I'm just going to clip in between. Sometimes I like to let it fall. It straightens it out a little bit. You get that middle side. This part for me takes too long, and that's why I don't do this kind of stuff. If I didn't have it the right length, I kind of work it in towards the end, which is, you know, if it wasn't exact, like this is exactly. If your seam allowances are, you know, 1/4 inch each time, then it should be 62.5 inches exactly, which is what this is. Or I mean 62.5. Did I say and a half? Anyways, I'm going to sew this on now. Again, it's the exact size, so everything just smoothly went. So I'm going to press this, put it up, and I'm just going to repeat that process. And I just wanted to say, if your row doesn't come out 62.5, measure all, you know, make all these pieces without adding the sashing. Measure each row and take the number that is more common and just make that your size. I know not everybody has the exact 1/4 inch seam, so it might be different for you, but 62.5 is what mine are. And there we go, talking and the thread breaks. You know, that just happens, right? Anyways, but that's the size that mine came out. And yours might differ, but if you stay consistent with your blocks and the sashing between the blocks and so on, it should be 62.5 inches. All right, I'm not going to go ahead and put this on the wall. I'm going to leave this one down. This is the bottom one. And what I'm going to do is grab the next one above it, which will go above it. And then I'm going to take this one and put it right sides together with that. And then I'm going to turn it around because I'm sewing on that side. My fabric is directional, so I'll know which way it's supposed to go. I'm going to go ahead and not use clips and actually going to use pins. I know, pins, I know. Anyways, I'm going to roll this back. First, I'm going to line it up nice and straight. Let me bring the camera down so you can see. All right, so I have the lines lined up on top of each other, right? Everything's along the edge where it's supposed to sit. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this first one right here. And I'm going to put a pin in this seam right here. And then it's going to come out. Oops, we need to go down a little bit further. I want it to come out right here on this bottom seam. So I'm going to place that in there. I already know that this is going to line up. Oops, right there. And then clip it in place. And then I'm going to clip before it. Right here. Or pin, I should say. I keep saying clip because I usually use the clips. Move on to the next one. I'm not going to pin right here yet because I want to line this up first. So I could see when I fold this back that this creates one continuous line. Go ahead and throw my pin right in this seam. I'm going to come out into this seam below it. I also got to make sure that the fabric stays where it's supposed to. And then put my pin there and then pin here and here, just like that. Move on to the next one. This is the third one. So I'm going to roll it back And if I have to adjust, I will. And this is going to be looser on the bottom. I can tell already. So that will go on the bottom when I'm sewing, and this one will be on the top. So I'm going to line this up again. It's right where it's supposed to be, but I also need to slide it up just a little so that that end matches that end. Go ahead and pin this in place. And then put my 2 pins here and here. And then just pin the end. I'm going to make sure that they line up at the ends. Just like this. And right here. And now all I need to do is sew straight down this seam, removing the pins as I pass them. So now I'm just going to sew. Just going to let it fall to the ground because I'm standing to sew. Back stitch. Go ahead and get that pin out of there while I'm right there. I'm also making sure that the seams stay flat as I sew. All right, and for quality purposes, I'm going to open it up and see. Ooh, that makes a nice straight line there. These are better than the blocks themselves. Whew. Maybe I should have pinned all of those. And this one, this one's slightly off, but guess what? I don't care. I'm going to press it towards the dark or the sashing. I went ahead and just left that over there, and I'm going to do that same procedure. I'm going to bring this one down and this one down, but I'm always going to put the one that has the fabric, they all have fabric. Whew, what am I trying to say here? The blocks, the edge with no sashing, I'm going to always put that one on top of the one with sashing. I find it easier to line these up that way and then just flip it upside down and then line up the ends so that I know that's where it's going to land. And technically, it stays put most times, making sure that this is aligned, and it is. And then I'm just going to take my pins and repeat that step where I fold it back, place a pin into that seam, it comes down into the next seam, and then I clip it in place. There, right there. Stop shifting on me, please. Thank you. Oh, there we go, right there. And then pin in front of it. Move on to the next. Make sure the ends are where I want it to be. Put it down in the seam, come out the bottom seam, and then just put my pin in there, and then place 2 more pins in between. I know that's such a rare thing for me, but it makes it land a lot better when you do it this way. So again, I want it to stay right about there. I'm going to fill for that seam, put my needle in it, pop it out, and then throw some in-betweeners in there. And then go down and fill some in here. Get this end first, making sure that's nicely lined up. Everything's pretty much lining right up. There was a little bit of fullness in that last one, but like I said, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. So, all right. Sew this one up. Make sure not to step on any pins while I'm at it, because, you know, that just happens to me often when I sew like this. And I am not sewing with any thread. Am I out of bobbin? Is that what it is? All right, gotta lift this whole thing up from the floor. Oh no, it's threaded up here. It's out of bobbin. As long as I didn't run out of bobbin on the last one. It's not out of bobbin, it's tangled bobbin. Same difference to me. Okay, let's find another one to put in here. All right. Start over. Or not. You know, I'm at that point. So I just have to say, I checked my other Juki, you know, because it's broken and whatever. So I checked it to see the difference between something. And it changed something on this one. Well, this broke the piece and the other one's different. So not all Juki 2010 Qs are created equal. The other one is, you know, like 8, 9, 10 years old now. You know, that old of a model. And this one is only 3 years old. Who knows how long ago the machine itself was made. But let's just say there's 2 different parts on them. So I cannot swap parts for other parts, unfortunately, or else I'd have done that already. So instead I think I have to get the whole new unit for this. Either way, it was making me wondering why I was breaking thread, and I found the culprit. It's a piece that looked broken, and well, guess what it is? So I checked the other machine, and I was like, oh, this is supposed to be like this. That's okay, I can fix it. I'm gonna leave my pins in and just pull them out. When I'm done sewing. All right, now I'll just pull the pins out. And remember, I'm upside down, so I gotta put it right side up. I mean, the way I sewed it, I flipped it. All right, now to press. Now, before I pull that top one down that's still up, I'm gonna do these two together. So this one goes above this one, so that means the fabric edge, I don't know why I say fabric, the whole thing's fabric. Ding! Anyway, this edge that doesn't have sashing goes on the sashing side this way, so that it is 100% easier to line it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the whole thing around. It's nice to have a big table, especially, for this kind of stuff. I'm gonna go ahead, because this is such a big piece now, and go backwards with my pinning. So I'm gonna just line things up and just go the opposite direction. Put that in that seam, come out that seam. And then all I'll have left is one more to hook, and then we just put the borders the rest of the way around. And this is why I didn't want to pin, because my fingers, I've poked them like 6 times already. Okay, so now I have to sit down for this, because this is heavy. Let's grab a chair, plop a squat, and put it on my lap. And I'm going to have to do that with that last one too, because it's going to be heavy as well. All right, back stitch, and just stitch on down. This time I'll pull the pins as I go. Okay, so now I'm going to press this towards the dark, or to me it's dark, towards my sashing, and then add that last one. All right, due to the fact that that last one is a little bit harder to flip everything upside down, I'm going to go ahead and just lay it on here, pin it in place, but opposite. I really do prefer to pin with the non-sashed edge on top. And wouldn't you know, I was going to say fabric again, but All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this one on here, grab some pins, and get to work. Right there. Normally I'd put the sashing on the bottom, but this would put the small piece on the bottom, and we don't want to sew backwards like that with it underneath, because then we can't see what's happening under there and pull and shift and adjust as easily. Oh, that one is over slightly. Like I said, it wasn't going to be perfect. If I had had cornerstones, it would have been better. But I decided that this project is better without cornerstones. All right, over to the sewing machine. Very carefully lift the whole thing up and then sew. Now to press, and then we'll add the border all the way around. I always put my borders on my sides first, then my top and bottom. That's just how I do it, especially on a quilt that's not square. If it's rectangular, I do the sides first and then the top and bottom. So this should be enough to go all the way around. Go ahead and measure in 3 spots, but I'm not going to do exactly 3 spots. I'm just going to measure and put it on, measure and then put it on. Just like this. My mat is not big enough, so I'm just going to do like a pretend I'm good at this measurement. So 36, 37, 38, 39 and a half. Plus times 2. Obviously, I should be able to do that in my head, right? 0.5 times 2, 79. So I need 79 inches for by both sides. Should I measure it and put it on there? Well, yeah. No, I'm not going to, because then I have to, never mind, no, because then I need a measuring tape and I don't have a surface that long, and I'm just gonna do my thing. You do your thing, I do my things. I'm gonna attach these borders, and it should be enough. I'm hoping it's enough. And then move on. All right, here we go. So there should only be about this much left. I did measuring before, sewing it all on. So now I just need to press. I need to press the border all the way around. I'm not adding another border to this. This is just going to stay the size that it is, ending like this. And then when it comes to binding, I will also bind it with this fabric. That way it's just seamless edge, the whole goal. But I don't have any other fabric anyway that would match this. So, I mean, I probably do, but you never know. I really don't want to add another border. So I'm going to go ahead, press, and then hang it on the wall, and we'll see what it looks like. And here it is, just like that. So this one is not my style. I mean, I love it. I love flowers and floral and swirlies and the leaves and stuff like that. I think that's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful quilt. Don't get me wrong. It's not my style when put together. This is more vintage chic to me, which is not my thing. I like bright, hey, look at me. You know that. So anyways, this is the Shoofly Shuffle. And you can see, sort of, because it's kind of hidden, that it creates a shoe fly block, okay, but it's shuffled around. Things are just cut and sliced and moved around. Or else this, if this would have been just this fabric right there, let me see, better example, if this would have been the blue just right there, that's a shoe fly block. Adding the shuffle of switching up these 4 patches and turning it into everything instead of one solid fabric, perfect. It came out amazing. I love that. This one, I know, like, because you're kind of in a wide angle view so that you can see the whole thing. This one, certain blocks really highlight, the dark blue you can see, the pink you can definitely see, the green you can kind of see, the red one you can see, but most of them, they're kind of subdued. They're hidden in this one. So I'm going to bring it for a closer look. Obviously, don't mind that these are not perfect. Yours not going to be perfect either. I'm not the best sewer. And I highly doubt everybody else is. We just do what we love and we enjoy doing it. And I enjoyed making this. I enjoyed making it an abundance amount. So, yeah, I think it looks really cool. Let me take a closer look. All right, so here is up close. So you can see some of the colors really pop out and create what they're supposed to look like. And some of them are just well hidden. Like that one shows, that one kind of shows, that one kind of shows. This was what you would call mishap on color. This was definitely way too much busyness on the fat quarters. So it made it a little hidden. So there that is. But like I said, there were very busy fat quarters. So it's kind of hidden what is supposed to look like. But I went a little step ahead. And here is that one step further. Yes, I had to make another one, and I had to make it in a color palette that screams Tiffany. Because this is more like me. Plus, this one gives more of the Shoofly Shuffle that it is. So you could tell this was a Shoofly block. Like I said, if this would have been solid green, but we shuffled things around, so it's a shuffle. This one you can see what they were better. But this one also through the camera and in person when you step back, it looks like stained glass. I could just call this one the stained glass Shoofly Shuffle. That's kind of a long thing to say. Say that 3 times fast. Stained glass Shoofly Shuffle. Stained glass Shoofly. Can't do it. It's a tongue twister. But here it is. The quilts, both of them, came out 65.5 by 81 inches. So that's 65.5 wide by 81 inches tall. This one looks bigger because it's more colorful, I think. Plus, it's hung this way now on the wall because Scott came in and tried to help me hang it, but it looks better. Now, here's the deal. When you're choosing fabric for this is just my own personal opinion, as you saw the last one. When you're choosing fabric for this, I would highly suggest high contrast fabrics. High contrast, as in, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. High contrast, so that way, and low print. Little print, like blenders, or small little tiny print things, polka dots, so on and so forth, and blenders. Or you can just do this in solids. So do you imagine just doing it in rainbow colors, but solids? It would definitely look even more like stained glass. But this one, I think, personally, screams what I was thinking in my head as opposed to the other version. So like I said, for something that you want to, show your prints, or if you want subdued, but if you wanted to show like this, I would say small prints, high contrast, so blenders and so on and so forth, and a rainbow version. Or if you want all the purples, just do all purples, but make sure that they're high contrast from one to the next, to the next, to the next. That way they all blend together nicely and create what you're looking for. Other than that, this is really easy. Really, really easy. Like I said, fat quarters. This one was made with fat quarters as well, but this one was made with fat quarters from my fat quarter bin. I chose them all myself. And the 20 fat quarters I chose, not all 20 were 18 inches. Like I said, you really got to choose 18 inches, as much as you possibly can get from your fat quarters. Unless you want to make your own fat quarters, which, works out perfect too, because you could just get a half yard of 20 different prints and cut them yourself, and you'll know that they're exactly 18 inches. This one, I had a few that barely made 17.5 inches, but I did stack the squares on top of each other, and the smaller ones I stuck on top of the 18 inch, and I made sure if it was, a half inch smaller, that it was a 1/4 inch in. You cannot go anything less than 17.5. If all of your pieces are 17.5, then you're going to have to line your ruler up a 1/4 inch beyond your 6-inch mark on the outsides, because you need that centerpiece, that center of everything, you need that to be 6 inches for this to work out, because this one right here is, like I said, you trim everything down. All this was trimmed, but this barely has anything to trim at 6 inches of a square. So if you have to make that center shrink, it's not going to work. The best bet is cut your own fat quarters, or you can get a, a half a yard of 20 different prints, or, half a yard of 20 fabrics, and cut 6-inch strips, 2 6-inch strips, and then subcut 9 6-inch squares from that. Obviously, you'll have a lot of scrap left over that way, but that way you have 9 exact 6-inch squares, because you're not going to get 9 from one piece of with the fabric strip, but you will from 2. So you can do it that way. So you would, technically it's 12 inches, so you would need at least 2/3 of a yard, or half a yard. I would be safe on half a yard, and then cut that way. That's if you want to. But if you do it the fat quarter way, make sure your fat quarters are 18 inches by 22 inches. That part really doesn't matter, but you definitely need to get an 18-inch square from it for this to work, and this right here to work great. The outside pieces like these get trimmed down, and this only has one seam, so there's wiggle room if it's smaller on the outside of your square. So if you centered it in and it was smaller than the other 18-inch pieces, those ones will look short, but you will at least have room to trim down. These ones, the 4 patches, you actually have room to trim down too. Not a lot, not as much as this, but enough. But this one in the center, the hourglass, does not have much room to trim down. So do what you want with it. If you want to do a 17-inch square instead, just divide that by 3, make your cuts, and everything will still work out, but you'll be trimming to 4.5-inch squares instead. These were trimmed to 5-inch squares. So just so that you understand, you can shrink it down if you want. You could also make more blocks. You don't need 20 fat quarters. You could do 32 fat quarters and do 6 across by 7 down. You could do only 16 fat quarters if you wanted and do 4 across by 4 down, or even 3. So you can do 12 fat quarters and do 3 across by 4 down. It's up to you. You don't have to make as much. Just know I gave you 3 yards, and with that 3 yards, you have over a yard left. I'm going to use it for binding for both of these quilts, but you'll have over a yard left, so it's over measured. So if you wanted to make more blocks, make another row of it and have, say, 5 across by 5 down, so it's wider and fits on a queen size bed, then you can definitely do that with the amount of yardage I gave you for this sashing between the blocks and outside the blocks. You just need to add more blocks. So anyways, let's take a closer look at this one. I hope you understood everything I just said, because I don't want to confuse anybody, but this is really easy to do. This is really easy pattern, the Shoofly Shuffle. I hope you enjoy it. Let's take a closer look, and I'm going to end the video there. Bye, everyone.